Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode, we have a new map. The event-only Crit City is tight, twisty and fast. 2019 is almost done. We look back at the year on Zwift and forward to 2020. And Zwift's second sport, running. What does the future hold? Plus, plenty of Zwifty chat. I am double delighted to welcome my two fellow Zwiftcasters to see out 2019 and maybe think a little bit about 2020. All the way from Wisconsin, the voice of Zwift, Nathan Guerra. Yo, dude.
Hey, how's it going, Simon?
Very well, thank you very much. Approaching the shortest day, which is always a good one to get behind you. Fresh from travels to two continents, Europe and America. The llama himself, now safely back home in Melbourne. It's Shane Miller. G'day, mate.
How are we doing, Simon? And I forgot to check before we started recording. Am I allowed to do this show without pants on? Because it's really, really hot. And I'm going to call this Pants Off Friday. A town right near here has just hit 47.9 degrees Celsius. 47.9. The town that I'm in has just topped 40. It's hot. Pants are off. It's Friday.
I'm not surprised. Pants are off at 48 degrees C. I mean, that's uninhabitable stuff, isn't it?
That sends your power meter calibration out. That's not time. No time to ride outdoors. No way.
Anyway, Shane, as I hinted at there, a few days at HQ for you. What's new in Long Beach, bro?
Lots and lots and lots of new people, lots of hires. I think Zwift topping 300 now, I think. But what's nice is to walk in there. Now, I've been visiting Zwift on and off for about 4 years, I think, for when they were a size company of 15 or so people. So it's nice to walk in and see those original faces and then the other 50 that I met the next time and the other 100 I met the next time and the other 200 we saw at the offsite. Great to catch up this time of year with everybody. Lots and lots going on. Lots we can't talk about, lots we can talk about, but lots of planning for next year as well. So all things that people will hear about upcoming in the Zwiftcast.
Yeah. Well, I got the same impression. I happened to be in the London offices last week, and I mean it was absolutely humming. There was a real sense of a company on the move. Lots, as you say, lots being planned, and again, lots of people being hired. Lots of decisions being taken on the shape of Zwift in 2020. I think we probably do have a lot to look forward to next year. Starting with the Tour de Zwift in January, which I think will be massive. But let's kick off this episode with a look at Crit City, an esports-inspired new map, a shade under 2 kilometres in length, pretty flat apart from one sprint climb in one direction and a bit of a draggy ascent in the other direction, a couple of tiny rollers and lots and lots and lots of corners. Like the Bologna map, we can only ride this in events, and plenty of Zwifters took the opportunity to do so the other weekend, including one Mr. Guerra. So just take a listen to this audio. This is Nathan's race in 45 seconds. There's a few words at the beginning, but after that, not so many.
Holy crap, dude. Okay, we got to move forward fast. Now, we are on a 34-tooth MTB, so might be a little bit spun out. Guys, I'm spun trying to get there. Got the wrong bike. Forgot to switch bikes.
Okay, that's one more lap on the board.
Ah! All right, let's go.
Come on, hang in there.
Ah!
And we're there.
Ah! Oh my gosh! Ah! Woo!
That looked and sounded, Nathan, like a big effort, man. Have you recovered?
Yeah, I mean, I've been training pretty hard recently. So, I mean, that was my harder effort last week. I do probably 2, maybe 3 sometimes. Once in a while, I throw in a 4th race or something, but it was a shorter effort. I mean, it's 20 minutes or so, but it was pretty all out the whole time. Weighted average, I think, was pushing 300s or something.
What was all that stuff about the wrong bike?
So up front, I was like, oh, I got a 34T. Yes, it was the wrong bike to maybe win the race. And that is true also. But I also was looking in the game once I got halfway through. It was like, I'm on the Specialized, I believe I was in the tarmac with the 808, or no, not with the 808, with the Mellensteins. I'm on the climber bike because I went to go do Zwift, Alp to Zwift a week ago or something like that. So I should have had 808s with one of the other Specialized bikes and I was really frustrated because I'm falling off the back going, is this little bit making it so that I can't, and I'm spinning at like 120 RPMs like almost all the time because I got this 34T mountain bike. It was really hard.
It does sound like your race prep was somewhat lacking there. I did ride it. I didn't race it because I am not in race shape at the moment. Although there are signs that I might be getting towards race shape, but not in race shape at the moment. So I just kind of rode around it. I really enjoyed it, actually. I spent an hour actually just lapping it, amusing myself by trying to get up that sprint climb in under 20 seconds. I think I had about 8 goes at it, and my best attempt was 20.17, I think. So I didn't quite crack the 20-second thing. Shane, you ridden it, mate? Do you like it?
Yeah, I did. But back to your form there, Simon. Are we potentially going to be seeing an FTP increase post by you over on Zwift Riders soon? We love those.
Never. No.
If you improve by at least 2 watts, you have to post.
I'd have to reveal what it was currently to show the increase, and the shame would be too much. So no, definitely not.
Yeah, look, with all my travels, I finally got onto the course. Yesterday it was. I did a solo course with nobody, or solo route with nobody else around, just to get my eye in, because I wanted to look sideways, because when racing's happening, you never look sideways. It's about the race. So I did a lap and a little bit, having a look at all the features of the course. And what is hilarious is they've got the whole big stage with esports happening on Zwift, and the Z jumping around on stage and people racing Zwift on Zwift whilst I was riding Zwift, taking a video for YouTubers to watch who Zwift. There was a lot of Zwift going on. It was quite funny, actually. So I did one lap solo to have a look at the course, and then I entered a C grade race, because I didn't want to get shot straight at the back straight away. I'm sharing that same, might be coming into form, still don't have a lot of form at the moment, trait with you there, Simon. And I raced 2 laps and then I pulled out and let the race go off. It was really good though, because my concentration was that of a crit. Now, there's no cornering, there's no elbowing, there's no braking, there's no risk. So there's not that side of it. But the positioning, being up the front and making sure you're putting on the watts or taking off the watts, not being on the front but not being off the back, that was all there. So it was very, very busy. And with those corners, it's going to make a lot of people throw up, which is fantastic, because throwing up is what crits are all about.
yeah, that and crashing on corners. One thing that sort of surprised me, Nathan, because it's already implemented in game. There's a curve in London that does auto braking. I was surprised they didn't just throw auto braking straight into this.
Yeah, that was interesting. We'll see how. I think maybe they wanted to see how the climb in the middle affects things, especially with those 2 little bumps at coming around to the finish banner, and if they threw too many things in at once. So it's like, I don't know, add a variable, see what happens, add another variable, see what happens. Add too many variables, you don't know which one's doing what.
Yeah.
You know, so perhaps that's what this is, if I give the benefit. Essentially, it was just wait for the climb. And we did it, no Fort Bragg or anything, in 16 seconds, a little bit under 20.
Whoa.
But no, but we were riding with, in that A race, it was like some of the top BRT riders, Canon ZCC was there, like DBR. I mean, it was like esports teams were showing up at the top A level, and I was just hanging on, like literally, like the whole time. But if you did it with a race, I bet you would get it 18 or something, Simon. I bet, because
I think in a pack, I could probably
for sure
clip maybe 2 seconds off that.
But anyways, I digress. I think that adding variables and just seeing what that climb was doing in those 2 bumps. But yes, I would agree 100% that the race probably would have broke up more, and there would have been way more opportunities provided each lap for somebody to attack and attack and attack. It definitely felt like a crit. It could feel more like a crit, though, I think, if they did add some of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Shane, one thing I noticed, and this is not a criticism actually, because I think this map was produced in pretty short order. I think it was produced pretty fast. I noticed lots of borrowed assets. So I swear to God, I saw bits of Harrogate in there and bits of Innsbruck and a building I recognise from another map. I'm certain there were some pre-existing assets put into this. But do you know what? It didn't bother me in the slightest. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Do you?
No, not at all. And that was one of the first things that I noticed on course. It looked a lot like Innsbruck. It looked a lot like, I think there was some elements from London that I saw there, but that may be just the textures and things. What it's all about is the terrain and the variance of corners. And ultimately for a race course, it's about the quality of racing. You can be on a boring racetrack, but if the racing's exciting, that's what it's all about. So I think that's what they're aiming for with this. But the little things on the side, the Zwift van makes an appearance. I think I saw the Zwift van in Yorkshire. It's pulled up there at Crit City and the main stage. But those big screens, they look awesome. That added the atmosphere. Now, I'd love to see what they're going to do with branding in the future for this. I mean, this is potential. This is all just up in the air. I'm guessing here. But if I was to come along and say, hey, look, I want a GP llama race, brand the GP llama everywhere, and have llamas running on those big screens, could I do that? I mean, it's absolutely possible in game. So, yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned those big screens because I'd actually forgotten about them. But they are a terrific feature. I mean, the very first time I rode past them, I thought, why am I not seeing myself as I go past the big screen, or seeing my avatar as I go past the big screen? I don't know if you remember Tax's first ever virtual world in TTS 2 or something. I mean, this is years and years and years ago. They had a velodrome, and they had a big screen at the end of the velodrome where you'd expect to see a big screen in a velodrome. But every time your avatar passed the big screen, it popped up in the big screen, and it looked really cool, actually. And so that was my first thought. But Nathan, they could make great use of those big screens, not only for branding or vanity reasons. You could put lots of interesting stuff in there.
That's actually the image grabs I did for the broadcasts and some of the video that we made. So I thought those were some of the coolest features were the big screens. One thing I definitely want to note as well, when you said the borrowed assets, I didn't realize it till just now that what it harkened to for me was like Blizzard World. So Blizzard made in Overwatch some maps to compete on that borrowed assets from all of the Blizzard games and put them in there. And I feel like this is like a Zwift world. Like it's like, and I like it a lot. Like it's like in the way I like Watopia, but almost more because I feel like I'm in like Zwift culture. Like there's all these different maps that are all coming together into a Zwift world. So I think Crit City could also kind of be called that. It feels like in some ways, it harkens to grabbing a lot of Zwift memorabilia and culture and putting it all into one place.
No, I mean, I think what all three of us are saying is if you need to, borrow assets and nick things from here and there to make us a map quickly, don't worry about doing that, guys. That's fine by us. I mean, it works really well for me. Shane, it'd be nice to see it a little bit more often than we see Bologna.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with the scheduling of this because I had to wait till I think it was 3 or 4 hours between races for me to jump on course and record my ride through in a race. Does Bologna still exist? Is it still around? It's kind of...
No, it's still around. You just never see it.
Yes, I don't want Crit City to be that. Maybe there's future expansion for Zwift to be able to do more scheduling of races. So it might pop up there. So it's, you build it and they will come in the future. I think that's where this might be heading. Okay,
well, I mean, it is an esports inspired track. I think we all like it. We all like it. As ever, we're greedy and impatient, and we'd like to see things like auto braking and maybe even steering. I mean, steering would be such fun on that, and maybe that will all come in the future. Be nice if it did. 2020 is going to be a very big year for esports in Zwift. I think we'll see some in-game features that will really help that enterprise, but also benefit ordinary Zwifters. And I think Crit City's a bit of a harbinger of that. There's one particular new feature that I do know is being worked on, which is extremely exciting. I wish I could say more, but I can't. But I think it's coming soon. And not as Zwift soon. I think we might even see that maybe January, February time. So stay tuned. Okay, let's look back now on 2019. I'm going to get some thoughts from Shane and Nathan, of course, in a moment or two. But here's my review of the year in Zwift. And I've been joined by my good friend, Eric Slangier from Zwift Insider. Welcome to the Zwiftcast 2. Eric Schlange, Editor-in-Chief of Zwift Insider. It's your morning, my afternoon. Greetings anyway, Eric.
Hello, Simon. Nice to be hanging out with you.
You're always a very welcome guest. Okay, we're going to do a mini review, or our mini review of the year in a moment or two. But first, I can't believe you're not already a member of the Zwiftcast Peak Zwift Guessing Game Club. You're not, so permit me to extend an invitation to you, my friend. Simple rules, I'm sure you know them. You just have to register your guess at the highest number of concurrent users on the platform, which we reckon, because it always has been before, will be sometime in early January. So before I give you some range-finding figures from other esteemed club members, Eric, I'm thinking you're quite well placed to be on the money here, my friend, given the insight you get from watching your traffic on Zwift Insider. I'm guessing there might be a bit of a correlation there.
I can definitely track some of the stats, but it's not like my user base is directly linked to Zwift, because we have a lot of the dedicated Zwifters, but not so much the new ones.
Yeah. But is your traffic showing the kind of uptick that everything else associated with Zwift appears to be doing this winter?
I'm seeing in my own traffic probably around a 30-40% year over year increase.
Wow. Well, I'm sure that probably doesn't, as you say, correlate directly to new subscribers, but obviously it's the right shaped graph, I would think, for HQ. Okay, well, look, here's the state of play on Peak Zwift Guessing Game. Revered blogger and god of all sports tech, Ray Maker, went with 21,000 concurrent users. That's the top guess at the moment. The Sage of Wisconsin and voice of Zwift, our friend Nathan Guerra, reckoned it to be 20,000. I was doing my usual kind of play it safe fence sitting thing, a strategy which has served me well in the past, and I guessed 18,000. Mr. Lowball himself and custodian of the world-renowned Llama Lab, our friendly Australian Shane Miller, was playing it super cautious at 16,666. So, Eric, Zwift Insider, definitely got the credentials to join the club. Let's have your guess, please.
I'm going to go with, let's see, I'm going to go with a 40% increase year over year. Doing the quick calculations here, that means I'm just over you, Simon. 18,289.
Well, I admire your precision. I must also say I admire your methodology. And, given the extensive testing you do on the properties of bikes and other things on Zwift, I'd expect no less. Excellent. Okay, well, you will be registered. And we always think around about the second week of January for Peak Zwift, but we've probably got to let January play out to be absolutely certain. So results shortly after that. Okay, Eric, let's move on to our kind of mini review of the Zwift year. And the format here is two things that bring us joy, balanced with one thing that's been a bit annoying. I'll kick us off. This may not surprise listeners, but the thing that brought me joy was, of course, the Harrogate/Yorkshire course. Beautifully executed, gorgeous art, interesting course itself, both to ride and race. And, of course, my hometown. So there's plenty of sentiment in that choice for me. But, there you go. I enjoy it every time I ride it, which actually probably isn't enough because it's rarely on the schedule, but that's a minor gripe. It's a lovely, lovely piece of work and truly enriches Zwift for me. Over to you, my friend.
It is a beautiful course. You know what it's not beautiful for is me racing it,
yes,
where I get destroyed every time. But, it's a beautiful race course, kind of like Richmond, where it's just laid out to make really interesting racing. So I enjoy it, and I really enjoyed learning about the course through your eyes and through your experience. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. I mean, it is a tough race course in Zwift and in real life. And I guess that's kind of the reason I like it so much, really. It was just so faithfully executed. Okay, your first nomination for the Zwift thing that brought you joy this year, Eric.
This one it's so old people may not realize it's a year old almost, but World Choice was rolled out, I believe, in last January, and that brought me a lot of joy. I was one of the guys griping about it, especially on Richmond days when it was just a conga line basically around Richmond of 6,000 Zwifters. But yeah, Zwift adding World Choice opens up a lot of roads, making them easy to free ride. And it's not necessarily true World Choice because it's just a guest map on Watopia, but it's certainly better than just having access to one map.
Well, let's just open this up for a very brief discussion. Do you think they could now afford to have a choice of guest courses? So always Watopia plus 2?
I think they could, especially, again, we're back to the point now. The last Richmond day, a couple of days ago, I was on Richmond and I was thinking, it's a conga line again. One of the things that's interesting is Zwift defaults to the guest course. It doesn't default to Watopia. And I'm convinced that there's a good percentage of Zwifters who don't realize that they can pick Watopia. So you've got a lot more riders on the guest course than I think you would have if they understood that.
Yeah. Not helped, it must be said, by, how might we describe this kindly? Not the clearest bit of the UI for me, that. I mean, one is sort of grey and one is not so grey. And you're never quite sure which, I mean, even I'm never quite sure which one I've really selected.
I'm amazed how many Zwifters still ask, how do I get on Watopia? So it's still a thing. And I'm sure Zwift understands that. They know that.
Well, we know there's a UI refresh coming. I'm pretty sure that's one of the things that's going to be looked at. Okay, on to my second thing of joy. People might find this a slightly strange one, but it's just so important. I'm bending the rules just a fraction here. This was announced in mid-December last year, so it just creeps in under the within the last 12 months category. And it's the money raised by Zwift in its latest funding round, $120 million to be specific, and that money is being used to grow the company. I think it's really important to make the distinction here between the growth of Zwift and the development of esport. I mean, the funding round attracted a lot of kind of publicity, and it was widely reported as having all that money or much of that money going into esports. And I don't know, because I don't get to see how they allocate the money, but I'm pretty certain that that's not the case. I think it's just a portion that's going into esports, and for sure most of that money is going into the growth of the platform and the growth of the company. I think we're now up to around about 300 people on the headcount, actually. I think we saw some evidence of the available resource to Zwift with their TV advertising blitz around the Grand Tours this summer. And that really does look like it's paying off this winter, and a well-funded company should be able to deliver more of what the subscribers want faster, as well as more subscribers. You really, really can do very little these days without the revenue that is needed for development and growth, and that subscribers bring. So more subscribers equals more development and growth. And I think that kind of theory, which is not particularly revolutionary, was proved by the demise of VirtuGo last month. I mean, just not enough subscribers, couldn't raise funding, and sadly they disappeared. So that cash in the bank is super important to all of us Zwifters, I think. That's my second joyful thing.
Yeah, it's good to know, especially when you're in our position, Simon, where we're creating a lot of content around Zwift and hoping that it survives and thrives for a long time. It's good to know that there are people at HQ, Mr. Min especially, who are working hard to keep the company funded and looking at long-term growth. That was a big plus.
And indeed, the external validation, I think that brings as well. Eric, these people are not easily parted with their money, and they must be convinced. So you do get that kind of there are people on the outside looking in, way outside the Zwift bubble, who think that what Eric and the team have built here is worth investing in. And without sounding too sappy about it, I genuinely think that's really good news for all Zwifters. Yeah. Okay, my friend, your second joyful thing.
Route achievement badges. Riding the route and getting a little badge popping up with little XP bonus.
Really?
This might seem like kind of a weird one to highlight for the full year, but I've been amazed since they rolled them out. I think it was early October, they rolled out the first badges, and I've been amazed at how much people enjoy chasing the route badges. I pushed for more carrots. I keep pushing for more carrots on Zwift, but it's nice to see that there's a lot of people that agree with me that they enjoy having carrots to chase. And Zwift, just in the last update, they added badges for all the routes. So there's 65 badges or something like that. So I've got a lot of riding to do. I don't know about you, Simon, but I've got a whole lot of badges that I need to earn.
Well, I mean, it's a funny thing, isn't it? But those kind of things just don't motivate me. Maybe I'm just lacking in imagination or something. I don't know. But but they don't really. But I absolutely concede that they do motivate a lot of people. And, maybe I could confess to small feelings of joy when I do get when I get one or two of them, but I wouldn't set out to collect them. But hey, I know lots of people that is a big motivator for them. So good. Okay, well, that's an interesting second one. All right. Well, on to the things that have been a bit annoying. Here's mine. It's a bit of an umbrella thing, this actually, but perhaps best exemplified by the totally infuriating distance bug. And the umbrella thing is bugs that have crept into the game and not been squished. So my most annoying thing is definitely the long-running bugs. The distance bug, I know in the last update has apparently just been fixed, and I know it's also had a lot of attention at Zwift, and I know they've probably been, well, I'm sure actually been as frustrated as everybody else by it. But man, that was torture for Zwifters. I mean, it could almost have been designed to kind of wrench your cycling soul out of your body. A winning line that keeps getting further away. I mean, what could possibly worse? That was a horrible bug. Anyway, in their defense, I do know that they hated it as much as everybody else, and I know they did work hard to get it fixed, but did they fix it soon enough? Well, probably not, actually. I'm sure it was nobody's fault, but, it was a bit of a long runner, that one. And there are a few other long-running annoying bugs in the game. I mean, I know another one that, and I don't even know whether this is a bug or a feature, actually, but having to log out of Zwift to kind of do anything different is another one that really gets people's goat, I think. So, long-running things that don't get fixed. That's my annoying thing. How about you?
For me, I'm gonna say it's Zwift not enforcing categories in races.
Yeah, that old favorite. Yeah.
Right now, if I'm a super strong rider, even if I have a proven track record of high wattage rides and races in Zwift, I can still jump into any race and compete at a lower category like a C or a D or a B. Zwift has zero enforcement of categories, no in-game recommendations based on your historic power numbers or race results, no automatic removal from the results even at the end of the race. Nothing. A year ago, when esports first started ramping up, this was kind of in the wouldn't it be nice sort of category, but today it's turned into like it's a complaint meme, I think, among Zwifters. I mean, it literally, there is a meme about it.
It is. Well, there's a very entertaining meme on the Zwift venting Facebook group, which tickles me every single time I see it, actually, which is, it has been no days since the last complaint about the absence of auto-catting. Yes. But, the thing with that meme is it does it catches a bit of a trend and something in the air that really, really is time to do something about this now. And it's something I'm definitely going to take up with Eric Min when hopefully we sit down for our big annual chat. I mean, I don't get it, Eric, actually. I mean, I do get that companies don't want to do things that upset subscribers. I mean, I really get that. And you've got to kind of treat your subscribers because they're terribly valuable to you with kid gloves. But to me, this is causing more upset now than it ever would if I got a message in game that said you've entered as a C and you really ought to be a B.
I absolutely agree. I think on the very easiest level, you could just base it off of the FTP that people have entered into the game, because even that would be better than doing nothing. So, and I'm convinced that a lot of Zwifters, they don't even know that they're entering the wrong category. They're just being blasé about it. They're just clicking a category. But if Zwift was to pop something up and say, your FTP is this, and you chose this, that's the wrong category, or just not even give them the option of the other categories. Here's your category based on your FTP, join the race or not. That has to be better than what they're doing now.
If it's a good idea, because that would give some flexibility. Because there are days, we've all had them, when you think, oh, God, I really don't want to race B today. I'm feeling like death warmed over, but I do want to turn my legs over. So, I mean, I guess if they use the system you just described there, well, then just you temporarily lower your FTP, who cares?
Just force them to actually think about it and say, you know what, I'm going to change my FTP to change my category so that it's, there actually is an action required on the user's part if they want to do it. That seems like an easy place to start. What it ruins is the D and C races mostly.
Which is the mass of Zwifters.
That's the mass of Zwift. And those are the Zwifters that we're trying to encourage the most to race. They're the ones they don't have a lot of experience in it a lot of times, and they get discouraged. But I mean, how discouraging is it when you enter your first D race and the quote winner is
doing 5 watts,
doing 5 watts or even 3.5 watts, which just destroys a D race.
It is a baffling one, actually. And even if Zwift told us why they weren't doing it, gave their rationale for it, I think it would do something to assuage people's kind of bafflement about it. But hey, maybe Eric's saving all that for his set piece interview with the Zwiftcast. Who knows?
I know Zwift is talking about it. I saw a post from Wes Salmon on the support forums about how they realize it's an issue and they're working on it. But the way the posts were worded, it sounded to me like they were in the early stages. Like it wasn't, hey, we have a solution and we're working on coding it. It's more like we're still trying to figure out how to do this, how it's best implemented, which obviously is one stage in the whole thing. But my goodness, it's time to get something implemented.
It's overdue, that one. Even some kind of like update from them, it would be very welcome, I think. Anyway, we shouldn't really spend disproportionate amounts of time on the things that annoy us when mostly this year Zwift has brought me joy, and I'm sure you would probably say the same.
Absolutely. Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Well, you're always a very welcome guest, Eric. Always make very considered, valid, and interesting points. I'd like, given the time of year, I'd like to wish you and your family a happy and peaceful holiday season. Doing anything special?
We're not. We're staying at home this time around, having some family over, I'm sure. But it's gonna be a more sedate Christmas, I think. It's been a wild year, so.
Yep, nice traditional one. Pretty much for us too as well. Lovely. Thanks for all your contributions to the Zwiftcast and indeed, of course, to the Zwift community over the course of 2019. I'm sure we'll talk in 2020. Have a happy Christmas, holiday season and a great new year. And we'll talk again in 2020.
Thank you, Simon, and Merry Christmas to you as well.
Right on!
Right, boys, your turn. So a slightly different format for you two. I have asked you to think, I've given you time, you've done your homework. I've asked you to think of one thing that you've really enjoyed about Zwift this year and one thing that you'd really like to see Zwift implement in 2020. So we'll do it in turn. Shane first, please. The thing you've really enjoyed.
It's a really hard one to come up with one specific thing because Zwift is a rolling update. There's no version numbers for Zwift. We're not on Zwift 3 or 4 or 5. It's just Zwift. So I try to put some timelines on what was released this year. There's a lot to it. But look, I've got to come back to what I use Zwift for. And it's my tool and it's a utility to test trainers and power meters. And the best course for that, the start of Titans Grove. You start on the desert course, you turn left, it's rolling. It stresses every trainer. It heats them up, it cools them down, the cadence is tested, it's up and down, and there's a 2-minute climb right at the end, where at the end, you perform a spin down, and then you get to roll through some dinosaurs. So for me, it's Titans Grove. That's what I've really enjoyed.
That's a really good pick. Yeah, that's a really good pick. I actually rode that for the first time for ages. Don't know why. I've just not been riding it recently the other day. And it's a great piece of Watopia, that. Good pick, Shane, yeah.
And there's corners and there's people flying the other way and you pass people and people pass you. Then there's the mountain bike off to the side as well. It's just a bit of fun. As for what I'd like to see implemented in the game in 2020, I would like to see, again, back to the hardware side of things. It's my bread and butter. It's my daily grind. I'd like to see implementation of hardware working from day zero. Upon release of the new hardware, I want to see that integrated in-game. I want to see the new Neos have road feel straight away. I want to see these new smart bikes operate with the buttons straight away in-game. I want to see the displays. I'd also like to see other hardware integrated, such as power meter, left-right balance, power meter cycling dynamics. Just a little bit more use of the hardware we already have. So hopefully in 2020, there's a little bit more, I guess, Yeah, smoothness with implementation of new things.
Maybe not necessarily 100% Zwift's responsibility, but I think what you're saying is you want to see closer and probably, here's the keyword, faster cooperation between Zwift and the hardware companies.
Absolutely. Yes, that's it.
Nathan, let's start with the thing that you really loved about Zwift in 2019.
I would say there's a lot of things that I wanted to talk about, but the one thing I'm going to land on is mountain biking and steering. And that right. was really fun. I haven't gone back to it a whole lot because it's short and it's, it's kind of more of a test thing, but I like to expand on that. And I felt like the creativity there, and it is how can I say this? All of the other features and all the other things have already been done. They're kind of just revamping of things that are already existing in Zwift in some ways. This is something completely new. And so that new experience was really, really cool. The idea of being able to hit certain parts of the course and being able to interact with the course in some sort of a way. I liked it that there was a new cog in there completely. There was a new nuts and bolts in there completely. That's what I really, really liked about it.
That's another good pick. And the reason I think that's another good pick, not only for all the reasons you've said there, but also for the potential that was, previewed in that. There were so many new things in that little bit of experimental track, and things we've particularly on the Zwiftcast have wanted to see for ages and ages. Yep, agreed. Very good pick, Nathan. And the thing you'd like to see them do in 2020?
I would there's a lot of different things that I'm thinking about that I just want to whinge about a little bit, but
only one. You're only allowed one thing.
I come back to over and over and over again, and it's what I tried doing with test labs a little bit, is we got to look back at the nuts and bolts of what is going on with the pack and the rider interactions. Like, we're going into these team points races and esports and these big events or all this different kind of stuff. And I don't feel like we've actually gone back and actually looked at how is the game interacting and is it even revealed to the riders how the riders are interacting. I said this about all the game releases for any other competitive game. They tell you exactly what the bullet damage is for every single gun. They tell you exactly what you're interacting with and why it happens. Personally, I would really like to see the nuts and bolts of how the pack and the CDA and all of that is interacting in a way that feels really rewarding in a race situation and feels like it makes sense.
I think what you're saying there is you would probably like, and the way the Zwift has to do it, that's in a very Zwifty way, but you want a kind of visualization of what's happening in the pack in relation to where you are in the pack. So the very simplest illustration of that I can think of, again, strangely enough, harking back to the old tax virtual world software, if you were in the draft on that, you got a fan that came on that gave you an indication you were in the draft. And if you were only 3/4 in the draft, it was 3/4 of a fan, and half in the draft, it was half a fan. And that actually was quite an immersive little bit of kit. So I think it's something like that you're looking for. And again, I'd say that's a good pick, and particularly in relation to the development of skill levels and interest for the participant, for the spectator in esports. That will be great to see. Here's hoping. Okay, well, very end of the year feel to this, but we're at the end of the year, so there we go. It's not surprising, isn't it? Really, but the end of the year data dump has come from Strava. To no one's surprise, it shows that indoor cycling, or virtual rides as they categorize it, is on the rise. The first year they did this back in 2015-16, around 5.5% of all rides in winter were indoor. This year, so actually that's last winter, it's that length of time they're using. It's up to 15% of all rides. So from 2015-16 to 2018-19, it's tripled. Well, not really surprising, I don't think, at all. So in this period of reflection, let's reflect a bit more. Imagine that we're now heading for, 2025. Indulge me, fellas. It's 2025. We're on the verge of 2025, and 3 software companies dominate the indoor landscape. Only 3. Who are they? let's just take it as read that one will be Zwift. It's really, really hard not to see that being the case. But Shane, we're on the verge of 2025, halfway through the next decade. Only 2 other software companies have survived. Who would they be?
Oh, this is a very interesting one. So I'm going to go what I know currently with the usage of people that we converse with, obviously online and in the forums and things. One of those would have to be Trainer Road for sure. I think Trainer Road have it absolutely nailed when it comes to training and just the specific requirements of getting faster. That's their core of everything they do, just getting you faster. They do that really well. There's no graphics to it, as in like there's no 3D graphics to it. There's no social aspect of it, but they survive and they do really, really well. Now, the next one, I say OneLap out of China.
Interesting choice. Yeah, interesting choice. That is, this kind of slips under our radar here. You might keep a closer eye on it. Although I did see a bit video from it the other day, and actually it looks...
Racing the
Sorry, the
pigs.
reason why I
Pigs
laughed, did you see what was on the
Great.
video? The racing pigs? They were literally on.
The year of the pig, something to do with China. It's got to be like something cool. They have the coolest events.
If any listener knows, jump in the Zwiftcast Facebook page and let us know what the significance of the pigs are on the OneLap page where they're racing or riding the pigs in the peloton. It was very bizarre. We can laugh at it, but obviously there's some sort of significance there. But I think that's a sleeper. Look, let's just say the Asian market really takes off and the China market really takes off. We might not even see it because it's behind a firewall or something like that. That could be really well. Now, OneLap was Zwift's most complete competitor for a long time. They've recently pivoted to be more of a peloton model, but also still have the racing esports model. They had national affiliates with their China cycling a long time ago. They've got races and everything. We just don't see a lot of it. So yeah, that's my 2. So Trainer Road and OneLap in 2025. Is this one of these things where we check back in a couple of years and we see how we've gone?
Well, if we're all still here, who knows? 5 years is a long time. But I think they're great picks, actually. Really good picks. I mean, I totally get the logic on that. I completely agree with you on Trainer Road. I think a lot of people keep that even if they Zwift because they're just focused. They do one thing and one thing really well. And obviously, OneLap, China, it does appear to be still around. And let's not forget that China is the most humongous market. I mean, there are just so many people there. So, yeah, good logic there, Shane. Nathan, I'm guessing you kind of got to agree with Trainer Road one. I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth, but who for you would be the two other survivors?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say up front. If not Trainer Road, something like Trainer Road that just focuses completely on getting fast. Like that's all it's about. It's just about getting your workout in. And it's completely workout focused and really sells on that point. Doesn't have anything to do with gaming, virtual world, or anything like that. I think I don't know if it's going to be OneLap, but I think it's someone who's not in the market right now, or is something that's like, I think that there is a lot of potential, like an Apex that came out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but like EA was working on it in the background and suddenly just took over the battleground genre completely. We were in the very early days still. PUBG, if I go to a gaming world analogy or looking at it, even before PUBG, there were other battleground kind of betas that had come out, and it took about 5, 6, 7, even 10 years. And now we're at a place where we have Apex and PUBG and a couple other battlegrounds that are all kind of fighting for that space, but Apex is at the top, and they're a AAA company, EA Sports. It's in the game. How long have you heard that for? Right? And they saw an opportunity and they grabbed it. So I see OneLap in that same kind of space a little bit, but they're very much a very small company from what I can see. They could be the PUBG of that whole thing because they did grow in the Asian market first. PUBG did. It wasn't an Asian company that launched this. And Asia would actually be the place to grow the most, I think, actually, because of their very much. I mean, did you see SEA? We were in some chats. The SEA Olympics, Southeast Asian Olympics, had esports in them. Their test events this past October, straight up like Arena of Valor and Rocket League were in their Olympic test events. I think there's a reality that a company like One Lap or something like that might come out of the woodwork and be like, bam, where did you come from? Because we're not even paying attention to that market, or we don't know how to even pay attention to that market. And then all of a sudden it's huge in an area that specifically Zwift's trying to compete in, which is esports. Obviously, Zwift then would be the third one, as they completely own the market right now.
Well, pretty much consensus there, I think, from the three of us. Zwift and Trainer Road, I think all three of us think are definitely still going to be around 2025. And I do think it's a very good point you both raise on the Asian market. You know, it will be hard to see something that's not either springing from or catering to that enormous market. You know, maybe that will be Zwift. We know that they're making some inroads in the East, in Japan. It'd be interesting to see how that develops. But maybe if there's still a Zwiftcast in 2025, we will come back and listen to episode 74 and see how wrong we all were. I noticed none of us mentioned Peloton. Maybe that's because we don't see that as a software company more. We see it as a hardware company. And none of us mentioned Road Grand Tours, which actually had its official launch. There seemed to have been a lot of RGT launches, but this seemed to be the official launch this week. So that seemed to me to be a good opportunity to jump on and have a go, which I did yesterday. Not the most pleasant experience, I'm afraid to say, guys, at RGT, if you're listening to this. I had 3 long dropouts where the app on my phone was no longer talking to my screen. And that was kind of annoying. And then a complete freeze. It just doesn't look ready to me. I mean, there's some quite nice things about RGT, but it just doesn't look ready to me. Shane, you had a pop at it yet?
Yeah, look, I've had a look at the architecture change that they've went to a while back. Now, if people aren't aware, what they've gone to is a split model of your computer or your screen runs RGT screen, which is just the display. That's it. So your Windows machine, your Mac, your iPad, whatever you're running it's just a screen. On the mobile device, that's RGT cycling, or I forget what the actual app is called, but there's a second app that you run on the mobile, which is your control app. That's your interaction with everything via the mobile app. So think of Zwift running on your main screen, and you can only control it via Zwift Companion. That's a little clunky. It's a bit of future think in regards to putting things up in the cloud and having the controller there. So I get where they're going with that. Implementation wise, it's a hard learning curve for people to, or a steep learning curve, I guess, for people to get their heads around how it works. And Simon, as you've experienced there, when there's dropouts on the app, that's game stopping literally. Whereas if there's dropouts for Zwift Companion,
no, it stopped. My avatar stopped pedaling. Yeah, my avatar stopped pedaling. You know, but the weird thing was that when I carried on pedaling, I could see the watts I was generating and the speed I was generating in my heartbeat in the app, which appeared to be still running, but my avatar on the screen was dead. So it was obviously a communication issue between the app and the screen, which just looked to me to be a huge point of vulnerability.
Yeah, I think they're ahead of the game. I really do. I think they're ahead of the game in regard to the architecture they're using. Maybe in 5 years, when we're back in 2025, let's revisit this because we're looking at Google Stadia that runs everything in the cloud and just sends down the image or the images to you. But at the end of the day, it's still only 2019. We're still running trainers and power meters that are based on technology that's probably 10 years old now. Ant Plus, Bluetooth, Smart. Is it ready to take the next leap? Not quite. And Simon, as an experienced user, you're encountering those issues. It's a bit of a problem.
I mean, you know, I don't know if there's something wrong with my setup, but, you know, I've got a modern phone.
You can't plug it in. There's something wrong with every setup you cannot plug in. We're back.
We're back to our love of give me a copper cable, and preferably one with a backup as well. And you know, I mean, it sounds Luddite and Neanderthal, but hey, you know, I still love it that I've got an Ethernet Cat5 cable plugged into the back of my PC that runs Zwift, and that cable is connected to my router, and that's connected to the internet, all by copper cable. And that just gives me a huge amount of reassurance, and it also gives me 0 dropouts. You know, and I know it sounds hideously old-fashioned, but to me, to have a game that, like you say, Shane, is a complete showstopper. If my phone stops talking to my PC, it just seems, I don't know, it just seems risky to me.
All the real gamers in the house are looking at you going, okay, boomer, like you think Wi-Fi is so cool. Like, it's not that cool for trying to actually game. Like, if you want to actually play the game in a way that's competitive, you have to be plugged into the wall because you will never have a dropout.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I was wondering when we're going to get here. Okay, boomer on the Zwiftcast. Excellent use of it there, Nathan. Well done, mate. Well done. Okay, yeah. I don't mean to be harsh on RGT. I'm sure people will think, oh, he's a Zwift shill and, he's knocking the opposition. But no, I went into it, fair-minded as a consumer. And it wasn't a great experience. I'm sorry, guys. I kind of wish it would have been because, like everybody, I like to see a bit of competition. But no, it was a bit of a fail for me, I'm afraid. I'll try again. I'll try again and report back. Okay, well, let's move on. Still in reflective mood. 2020 will bring a third sport to Zwift. We will definitely see rowing, I think, before too long, and even if it starts small and experimental. But what might be on the cards for Zwift's second sport, running? I sat down with Zwift's relatively recently appointed VP of Running, Mike McCarthy. Now, the last Zwiftcast episode, has this interview in full. So if you're interested in that, seek it out. I mean, it really is aimed pretty squarely at runners because there's lots and lots of detail in there that I think perhaps cyclists might not be too interested in. But for those who may have skipped it, I did think it was useful to have a fairly heavily edited version of that full interview in this episode, because I've tried to concentrate on the areas where running and cycling cross over and what impact running may have on cycling in Zwift. And those are the bits of the interview I've chosen to put in this edit. Here it is.
I always ran in my off seasons. I've run sub 36 for 10K. I've run, just missed the breaky 3 hours for marathon, 122 for a half. So, but I'm also really, really good at running 10-minute miles, at this stage of the game.
We get the idea. And you've convinced me. Okay. But so the second bit of the question, why take this job?
Well, I think, within Zwift, I'm regarded as someone who's non-abrasive and can usually build consensus pretty well. I also have a passion for goals and achieving goals. And I can also be pretty annoyingly persistent when it comes to trying to achieve things. So I think Eric looked at those three factors, and I thought, wow, it'd be pretty awesome to be able to run a business here. So when Eric came and approached me with the idea, I was all over it. It's certainly not without risk. We have a lot of work to do, but in terms of potential, it's pretty massive.
I think it would be fair to say, Mike, that running on Zwift has got off to a slow start. Now, that might well be deliberate. But is your appointment now a signal that, this is the kind of turbocharged boost pressed for running on Zwift?
Running started off as an Easter egg in the game. It was an experiment. John was playing around, wanted to start doing some running, but once somebody exposed that Easter egg at Eurobike, the community got hold of it. The next day there was a Zwift runners group on Facebook, and we were off to the races. So it was a blessing and a curse. It forced our hand a little bit to start thinking about a second product, but at the same time, couldn't deprioritize cycling because cycling was, a really fast growing community. And truth be told, it kept the lights on. It still keeps the lights on. So the question was, how do we fit a second sport into Zwift? And the answer until recently was, we're just going to put it out there and see what happens. And you're absolutely right. It has not gotten the same traction that cycling got in terms of numbers, but in terms of building a small but evangelical community, it's not dissimilar from what cycling was in the beginning. But look, running has Borg level support. It's got buy-in from everyone at Zwift. There's lots of great things going on. And if you think about it, like even Strava, it took them 5 years to crack running. So I think we're super early in this game. There's great support for it, and we're going to have a go.
Obviously, I'm generalizing here, but I talk to a few runners and they say, oh, God, I would never, ever, ever do the treadmill. I just put on my running shoes and I go outside. I don't really care if it's raining. I quite like running in the rain. It is going to be a more uphill battle, isn't it, Mike?
I just think it's a different battle. The big thing with cyclists is there was a real desire to ride indoors if only there was the right content solution. And we came along and provided that content solution. The treadmill for runners is an interesting thing. I mean, there's no secret. It's referred to as the treadmill, whereas there's a clear option for people cycling to ride indoors, and that it's the better option. We need to build a product for running that actually compels people to run on a treadmill versus running outdoors, right? We want to give people an experience where they get off and they say that was so much more fun than running outdoors. And look, we're not there yet, but that's my vision for Zwift running.
We know that Zwift is in the very, very early stages of launching its own hardware division. Would Zwift ever make its own treadmill?
I can tell you that it's not happening in 2020.
No.
That much is sure. But it's there are always scenarios to look at. They're build or buy scenarios, and I think with the FitTech group that we have now, nothing's off the table.
But we often hear that the programmer's time is not unlimited. I mean, it can't be. And cycling, as you say, keeps the lights on. Does that mean that you have to fight for the resources that you need to make things happen with running?
If I had to write my job description, that would probably be like the first bullet point is ability to fight for resources. There are some major game overhauls that are happening that won't be specific to cycling or running. We just launched all the off-road stuff for cycling. I mean, that's where I try to get my foot in the door and say, okay, well, what are we going to do for running this month? But yeah, it is definitely a battle. And also, look, it's a battle in terms of priority. I understand that, we have 300 plus people now who get a paycheck every 2 weeks. That doesn't happen unless the cycling product, which is where we keep the lights on. If that doesn't happen, if it's not great, I am fully behind the continued investment and build out of cycling. I just basically, beg, borrow, and steal at this point until we have some dedicated resource for running.
Yeah, but you do. I mean, you referred to it earlier in the interview. You do have like board level support, which must put some lead in your pencil, if you like.
At the end of the day, everyone wants to see Zwift running succeed. Yeah, it's great to have that support for sure. And I don't think I'd be sitting in this position if we didn't.
Well, if you listen to the full interview, guys, I don't know whether you did because none of us are runners. But if you did, I mean, the very, very strong message that came across from that is that Zwift is absolutely determined to make running a success. Shane, are they right to be so determined?
They've chosen a challenge to make running a success. Winding back a little bit, where Zwift started, where the house was built, it was all around cycling, and people were jumping at getting on the private beta, signing up and being on Zwift. And when we were on, we loved it. It finally brought our hardware to life. It made us go out and buy new hardware. It made us start Facebook groups. It made us start little chat groups. It made us start posting on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere, all about it, because the experience was awesome. We haven't seen that with running. It's a little bit there. It's probably 5% of that. Is 5% enough to make a business out of? Sure, because Zwift is pretty big. We're just not seeing that organic growth. So for them to make something of running at the corporate level, they're going to have to push really hard and do something significant. Maybe doing what they did for smart trainers, which really revolutionized the industry slowly. Maybe they could do that for treadmills and running and the blockers for running, because treadmills are big, large, heavy things. But there's also that part of you can run any time of day. If it's, bad conditions, put a hat on, run with a jacket. It's okay. Runners aren't really indoor runners. Maybe it's more focused around the training of running. But I'd love to see them do something with hardware for the running side of things. So that's my take on it. It's a challenge.
Yeah, and all of that came across in the interview. And, it was like the analogy I used in the interview with Mike, which was that when Zwift came along for cycling, it was like a dam bursting, that massive amount of pent-up demand. People were clamoring to get with the product, and get with the program. And that hasn't happened for running, but it doesn't mean that has to be present, Nathan, for the product to be a success. It just means that to make the product a success may not be quite as was going to say quite as easy. I don't think it ever was easy for Zwift to make cycling a success, but they had those kind of tailwinds behind them, whereas it feels like running, if maybe it hasn't got a headwind, but it just doesn't have those favourable tailwinds.
Yeah, I think the approach with running needs to be a little bit different, because I see Zwift as a feature to your running, whereas Zwifting for cycling is what you're doing. So the idea being like, I could see, look, I'm going to run indoors or even outdoors, or I'm going to run and I have a community to go run with immediately. I have races to go do immediately. But I think that there's going to maybe be some rights buys that have to happen. Like you said, get involved with the treadmills a little bit more. I think that if Zwift is on every treadmill at the local YMCA, that people will use it. I think that they will pay for it even. Maybe not quite as much as a regular Zwift subscription though. If it's an add-on at the local gym, like boom, you hit a button and next thing you know, you're Zwifting in a running race rather than doing the stupid pyramid thing that you have on the treadmill. You know what I mean? Like, so a more interactive running experience, because there's plenty of people who are running indoors at lots of different places on treadmills, and Zwift doesn't add an amazing experience to that. It's just, how do you make that feature a attractive thing and even known about, right? So I think there's a lot more back-end business networking that has to happen, simply because there isn't a huge pent-up demand, like you said, but it is an amazing feature that can be added to people's run. And I think that it would sell. It just has to do, there's just a lot more footwork and heavy lifting that has to happen in order to get it to the running market, is what we're seeing. But the runners who are on Zwift are super passionate about it.
Yeah, they are. They love it. They absolutely love it. And I think it will be a success eventually if Zwift put enough resource behind it. And it looks to me as though they're doing exactly that. It just won't be the kind of overnight sensation, if you like, that cycling was, and runaway success very quickly. Runaway success. Did I really say runaway success? Okay, boys. Well, that's it. That's it for 2019. That's it for quite a reflective end of year episode. But you'd expect a bit of reflection this time of the year. Christmas time beckons. I guess it's going to be all about keeping cool for you, Shane, by the sounds of things in Australia, which I have to tell you, it's making, I don't know if it's making much of an impact on the news agenda in the States. Nathan, you've got other things to worry about right now, but it certainly is. It certainly is. It is here, Shane. I had a very, very dramatic report yesterday about the smoke in Sydney and the orange glow in the sky, and tourists not being able to see the Opera House and stuff because of the amount of smoke. Seems like the place is burning up, man.
Oh, look, that's Australia in summer and we love it. If the animals aren't trying to kill tourists, it's trying to burn itself down and get us as well. Now, as we're talking here, looking out the window, the sun sets here now at 8:45, I think, in the evening. However, the sun has just gone behind a massive smoke cloud because another bushfire started literally out my window, probably about 30 or 40 kilometres away, but it looks like the sun is setting early because of the fire. So, look, it's real. What you're seeing, it's quite dramatic. Of course, the news loves to make it dramatic. Not everything is dead. It's close, though, and it's very hot. Dare I say bloody hot?
And I mean, too hot to ride, presumably, for you.
If you can get out early enough, absolutely. But if you see my Instagram today that I've posted up, I was out riding. I went out at pro hours, which is a bad time of the day to go out, which is 9 o'clock onwards. And then on one of the roads, the road workers were spraying down the roads and bedding down the road and doing some road works. And they had one of the spray water trucks there. And the guy saw me coming along on the bike and turned the water spray down. And I'm like, no, turn it up. He turned it on full bore, and I rode through it. I've posted it to Instagram because I had the camera on at the time, and it doused me in water. If you ride smart, it's okay. I've been out with thermal bottles. Now, you use thermal bottles in heat, hot and cold. They work really well, knowing where your water holes are. And just like riding indoors, you have 2 or 3 bottles lined up. You plan your ride. So outdoors, I know where my watering holes are. I think we call them billabongs here in Australia, I think. So I know where to get clean water from. Literally, it's from a tap. It's not really from the side of the road. No. And you just pick your time of the day. It's really good. It's also a challenge to yourself. Riding out in that heat, you've got to be a certain level of fitness, and it takes even more energy to do, but you've got to do it responsibly. So that's the challenge with the Festi 500 coming up and Ollie's Heat.
Yeah. And Christmas Day for you, I mean, a bit of a special one, really, with the arrival of young Maxwell.
Oh, he saw his first Santa yesterday at Veronica's work's Christmas party. So he took him in and sat him on Santa's lap, and he started bawling his eyes out. It was brilliant. It was really good. So we can't wait for it. We've got a lot of family in town. 35 people at Christmas dinner, so it should be good.
Wow. You've become very mellow since you've become a father, Shane. I've noticed this. You've really mellowed out, actually. You've really mellowed out. For us old hands, Nathan, we're not quite the novelty of a first Christmas as a father. Both my kids are home from university, which will be lovely. They're bringing respective boyfriends and girlfriends, so we've kind of got a house full at Christmas, but that will be lovely. Your plans?
Star Wars with my mom's. That's going to be fun with all the kiddos. Cool. So that's always something that my mom's likes. She likes to take us to whatever the releases are for the movie, for the movies are. And we got a large family as well, gatherings. I think we do like 3 or 4 Christmases actually, with how many grandchildren and different. It's kind of crazy. So it's a lot of, I don't want to call it running around because it's really awesome seeing everybody, but there'll be lots of different celebrations. So, but I'm watching that video actually, Shane, on Instagram right now, and it's actually hilarious. The Aussie accent. Oh yeah. Or I don't know how to do your Aussie accent, but you're like, yeah, bring it. It's actually really great.
Well, listen, a bit of a round of thanks. Thanks to you two, for 2019. Always there, always present, always interesting, always cogent on the Zwiftcast, and both me and all the listeners are always very grateful for your contributions. So thank you very much. I should also, of course, say thanks to the listeners. Quite a few people contact me privately and say how much they enjoyed the Zwiftcast, and I'm not fishing for those messages. I'm really, really not. But they mean a lot to me when people find me on kind of PM and say how much they enjoyed the Zwiftcast, and that's always great for me. So a successful 2019 for all of us, I think. Bump in my road, which happily is behind me now, so that was good too. Looking forward with anticipation and expectation 2020. Thanks, guys. Have a peaceful, as much as you can with kids involved, a peaceful Christmas. And maybe a restful new year. And I'll look forward to talking to you in 2020.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Zwiftmas.
Thanks, guys. Talk next time. And last, but by no means least, I should also thank Zwift, of course, for their continued and appreciated support of the Zwiftcast. That carries the usual little reminder for listeners that support does not mean that Zwift influences what we say on the Zwiftcast. That's up to us. Happy Christmas. Thank you for listening this year. See you next year.